James Corden, asshole. The real reason he's returning. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. There has been considerable coverage of the fact that James Corden, asshole, has undertaken his last episode of The Late Late Show, and much song and dance was made about that episode, showing him with Adele and Tom Cruise, etc., and also coverage of what he's achieved in that role. But one of the questions that arises is, why is he coming back to the United Kingdom? Many people would say, please stay in the United States. And many people in the United States would say, please go back to the United Kingdom. Nobody wants you. Many people able to see through the affable aspect that he displays at times, alongside the fact that they find him nauseating. But what was the real reason that has prompted him to end a run which has earned him a lot of money and, to all accounts, has been seen as successful? Well, according to Lloyd Lee in Insider, CBS could no longer afford to produce The Late Late Show with James Corden, arsehole, as it raked in less than $45 million, but cost up to $65 million to make, LA Magazine reports. So not quite the success that people would portray it to be. CBS aired its final episode of The Late Late Show Saturday after a 28-year run, and its termination may have had to do with the show's declining profitability. Sources told Brian Stelter for Los Angeles Magazine that the late night show, hosted by James Corden, arsehole, since 2015, cost $60 million to $65 million a year to produce, but made less than $45 million. It was simply not sustainable, an anonymous executive told Stelter. CBS could not afford him anymore. So it's very clear that the blame is being attributed to James Corden, arsehole. Now, is this the case that he was too expensive and demanding too much money and was being overpaid? Or was it the case that the money was well merited, but somehow the show wasn't bringing in the viewers, wasn't bringing in the revenue that it ought to do? And what was that down to? Presumably, it would be down to a host that not a lot of people particularly liked, a host that freely nicked other people's gags, etc. And it would seem to me that there's a double whammy here. That Corden, arsehole, with his sense of entitlement, wants to be paid shitloads of money, residual benefit. But also, he's not worth it because he's not bringing in the revenue, because not that many people like him as need to like him for the purposes of the monetary return. In terms of critical acclaim, of course, it was praised. With Corden, arsehole, at the helm, the show received 12 Emmy nominations and won the award for Outstanding Interactive Program in 2019. Some of the show's most popular segments were Carpool Karaoke and Spill Your Guts, in which celebrities had to answer a question truthfully or eat unfamiliar foods. Now, one aspect of The Late Late Show which has been lauded has been Carpool Karaoke, although to my mind, enduring listening to Corden, arsehole, warbling on and again trying to make it all about him as he attempts to outsing the celebrity next to him is tedious viewing in the extreme. But there is a little known point about Carpool Karaoke which sums up James Corden, arsehole. I knew of this already, but it's been well put by somebody called Jay Reynolds, who was responding below the line to a Times article that posed the question, does Britain want James Corden, arsehole, back? Mr. Reynolds stated, I'll confess to not understanding the appreciation there is for this man. What interested me was how he took someone else's idea and was lauded for it, stealing idea, stealing credit, without seemingly acknowledging where it came from. Robert Llewellyn, who played Crichton in Red Dwarf, for years made and uploaded an interview series called Carpool, where he gave someone well-known a lift and then interviewed them. It was funny, it was original, and it was interesting. A few years later after this, Corden, arsehole, is being praised for the originality of carpool karaoke. When, of course, it's apparent that it's been lifted from somebody else's idea. Mr. Reynolds asked Mr. Llewellyn if Corden, arsehole, had asked, acknowledged, paid for, etc. the idea or format. Mr. Llewellyn's response was, no, he just stole it. This, of course, is typical of the behaviour of the narcissist that is James Corden, arsehole, that he acts with that sense of entitlement, treating the show that was developed and the idea that was created by Mr. Llewellyn as his own, that he shows a lack of accountability by not paying for it or even acknowledging where the idea came from, not even seeking the approval or involvement of Mr. Llewellyn. Mr. Llewellyn's very clear. He sees that his idea was stolen. Doesn't go further as to why he's not done anything about it, but he certainly doesn't mince his words with regard to his view of what has happened. And therefore, this popular aspect of the show, unsurprisingly, has been taken by James Corden, arsehole, and passed off as his own idea, when actually it's not, which once again demonstrates his ability to make such a little go a very long way. Deadline reported that the show averaged 971,000 viewers in the 2021 season. Seth Meyers' Late Night, which shared the 12:30 a.m. ET time slot, averaged 1.01 million viewers, the report said. But keeping Corden, arsehole, on board was costly. Variety reported that Corden, arsehole's salary was about $4 million to $5 million when he first signed onto the show in 2015. His pay increased to an undisclosed amount with the show's success, the report added. There's more coverage about this in terms of the fact that the show's lost millions. James Corden's Late Late Show was losing millions, proving the ongoing suicide of divisive, toxic, left-wing late-night television is inevitable. No surprise with that kind of language to find that this article comes from Breitbart. For 9 years, Corden, arsehole, was a midnight staple on CBS, a staple almost no one watched. Last month, the 44-year-old signed off for his last show, and multiple reports now say CBS is leaning towards not replacing him as he returns to his English homeland. With a low-rating epidemic sweeping all of late night, the format is no longer financially sustainable. Is this a change in people's taste, perhaps, or is it just simply that people couldn't stomach James Corden, arsehole? Other than the Fox News' channel's Greg Gutfield, the king of late night, all of late night's left-wing hacks are paying the price for more than half a decade of poisonous, joyless, left-wing hectoring and smug moralising. Breitbart not mincing its words as usual. Here are the cold hard facts. Johnny Carson could draw 10 million viewers a night. As competition mounted, Letterman averaged 3 million to 5 million. Now all three 11:30 p.m. stars, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel, reach 5 million combined. That shrinkage has hurt the 12:30 a.m. shows too. When Corden, arsehole, debuted in 2015, he was averaging around 1.6 million viewers. Lately, he's down to 700,000 to 800,000 a night. Therefore, it's halved. And fewer than 200,000 viewers in the 25 to 54-year-old demographic that advertisers and publicists most covered. So clearly, despite everybody saying how popular the programme was, actually it wasn't. The article continues by saying that although the article mostly blames the collapse of late night on social media, streaming and the like, it also sometimes touches on the real reason. Craig Kilborn, who hosted the Late Late Show prior to Corden, arsehole, said, "Let me be tactful and somewhat gentle because I know and admire the guys currently working in late night, but when I left late night, it was an easy decision and an exhilarating one, and now it's an even stronger feeling." He said he felt even back then that late night formats had become redundant, and the increasingly strident political commentaries on shows were rankling to him. It seems late night is becoming more and more obsolete. I've talked about it with my comedy writer friends, and we simply don't watch late night anymore, haven't watched them for years. Accordingly, it would appear that the show, in terms of its format, has met its day, but also It's evident that Corden arsehole's nowhere near as popular as he believes himself to be, and that a combination of his salary demands combined with an ailing format combined with his lack of popularity, notwithstanding him stealing ideas from elsewhere, means that actually the show was failing because of his involvement and some additional factors also. Accordingly, what he faces is quite a dent to that oversized ego of his. Namely, he became too successful and he wasn't bringing in the money in the way that he ought to, resulting in a poor outcome overall for him. Of course, this isn't something that he would accept, not at all. Instead, what he would do is would suggest that any failing was on the part of poor writers, that was as a consequence of the impact of streaming and social media, and was nothing to do with his lack of ability and lack of being funny. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.